All right, folks, and we are back. And joining me live is a good friend of mine by the name of Maj Toure. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with him at this point. What's going on, Maj?
I'm chilling, man. What's up with you?
Nothing much, nothing much. Same old, same old. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
So, you recently just got done touring in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
How'd that go? Say that again?
It was love down there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, so tell me about it. What was the kind of the energy that you were getting from Atlanta in compared to some of the other cities that you've been to?
It actually was much more positive than the other cities that I've been to. I mean, maybe because Georgia is more of a good space for gun owners to an extent. But I mean, Southern hospitality, the gun range that we were at, the gun shop, Stoddard's. I mean, that place looked like it was clean as Whole Foods. I mean,
yeah, I remember we were talking about that on the phone. You were telling me about how nice that place was.
yo, man, I'm talking about I mean, you know how sometimes when you go into gun stores, you get that look until they know who you are. It's like, who's it? But it was, I mean, it was customer service was great. I mean, people came out to learn so openly. We had people from Bankhead, Vine City. I mean, the worst parts of Atlanta came through, and they were just excited, man. So we actually wound up having to have so many people came that we had to have 3 classes that one night. I mean, simultaneously. So
Wow.
some of the Stoddard staff, they participated, and it was a great experience.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Now, with respect to the tour, what was the last city that you went to before?
Chicago.
Chicago. Okay. And so, like you said before, you pointed out, Chicago is not exactly gun friendly.
Right.
It's definitely one of those places that has a notorious reputation for violence, but then at the same time is incredibly anti-gun. Versus Atlanta, where it's a bit more gun friendly, a lot gun friendly, I would say. And you had a great reception there. And then as far as the ranges, that range you were talking about, I have noticed that over the past few years, there's been a lot of ranges popping up like that. The kind of I don't want to go so far as to say country club-esque type ranges. I'll use your term, the Whole Food-ish
Right.
type gun ranges, which I think is good for the overall kind of culture. Now, do you think that having it there at that range had a big part to play in just to kind of turnout?
Yeah, I mean, the turnout was because of, the promo that we were doing, and people, for some reason, people want to meet me, whatever. But but outside of that, I think that when they came in and they saw, very few people knew about the actual range, but they knew that it was a very open, friendly, understanding. This isn't taboo.
Yeah.
And the level of tension that may have existed eased. I mean, hot knife through butter. So it was definitely a lot more. They were a lot more receptive because of that. So yeah, absolutely. When you have a range or a gun shop or places where it's not taboo and it's not scary. It makes everything a lot better.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So, of course, last week we had the elections. We saw how that went. I know you and I clearly have a very unique perspective on things like that because of very obvious reasons. I like to talk around stuff and then basically say it out loud because we're black. But what are some of your thoughts in regards to the way the elections went?
I think it was a win for the Second Amendment. I mean, if President-elect Trump does what he says he's going to do, and I say that because we sometimes people, and to get into office, one thing is said and
then something else is done. Yeah.
Right. So if he stays on in alignment with the Second Amendment, I'm cool with that. I mean, I'm not, again, like we were saying before, I'm not waiting on any president or anybody to come fix my hood. We gonna do it, But obviously that was a better W for the side of things that I'm on, we're on, obviously. Again, the Australia option is not an option to me, and that's what, Homegirl was talking about. So I think the other thing to that is now it's like the people that are protesting and are a little upset, I would want to ask them to ask themselves, because the reality is people are saying that, Mr. Trump is racist. What I would ask them to say is, well, what exactly was said that was racist? Is he harsh? Is he abrasive? Yep.
Yeah.
But racist, that's a different tone. But as far as that, I would challenge them to ask that question. And to me, it looked like there was no fix. It looked like the electoral college that you may have not known about was, a key point there. And you should look into the electoral college. But protest, I would be more open to that if he won by cheating.
Yeah.
And that's how those rules are. So, I won. The Second Amendment won. So, I hope y'all aren't sore losers.
I think one of the things that I walked away from, I've always known, but and I think I was very cognizant of this because of how deep I am involved in the gun culture, is you had a lot of people, not a lot of people, but a lot of people who had platforms. Mainly, when we start talking to mainstream media. And the funny thing is the mainstream media is so egregious in the things that they do. And so we have to point it out so many times that people start to think that, okay, we're just saying it to say it now. Like it's just a cool thing to say, the mainstream media. Nah, they're seriously doing this stuff on a ridiculous level. And by doing it on a ridiculous level, what I'm referring to is basically they literally went out on a full-on assault on trying everything in their power to make this man racist. Yep. Everything. Even when the things that he was saying weren't racist, they just were politically incorrect. Right. And that's another thing about that. They've taken the idea of politically correct and kind of created this weird level of sensitivity in this country where anything you say that even makes me feel the slightest uncomfortable, you're automatically taken to the extreme. And for me, I've always been of the mindset, don't disrespect people unnecessarily. But at the same time, we can't engage in a proper conversation if every single time I say a word, you're going to get offended by it, and vice versa. Nothing can be had at that point. We can't even have an honest discussion because I'm too busy trying to tap dance around every single thing that may offend you. Right. And I've asked plenty of people that question before. What exactly has he said that was racist? And everything that they pointed out, I'm looking at, well, no, he didn't say that. But when I watch, say, for instance, like CNN, I can see why you thought he said that because that's the way it was presented to you. Right. Because I had the same notion at the very beginning, to be honest with you. I'm like, damn, he said that? And then I'll go back and I look at it, I was like, well, he didn't actually say that. Because they'd have to repeat it 3 or 4 times. And then I'm like, wait, he didn't even say that.
Right. The edit game is crazy. And then even outside of the edit game, then it's what did the interviewer say before they edited that very 10-second-ish clip that put that conditioning in your brain. Now, when you watch the full interviews, it's like, oh, well, that's not really what,
Exactly.
I've said this to a few people, and one of my old heads told me it was genius when he said it. They're mad because, Trump has been presented as the quintessential black man. They didn't like him. He had to do it on his own. He had to pay for it himself. And he didn't mess with nobody in return. And then he won. Now you're mad.
That is so true. That is so true. I never really looked at it like that. It's absolutely true. It's so true, man.
I'm mad. You won. That's it.
Man, it's the way I look. So it's another one of the bigger issues that I have too is, when I have this conversation with some of my peers, they look at me weird. They're like, man, the Second Amendment, like this, like it's that important to you? And I'm looking at them like, how could it not be to you? Right. The same way they're looking at me, I'm looking at them like that. Like, why is that not something that's incredibly important to you? You've seen the history of the Second Amendment. You've seen the way it's been abused. You've seen the way it's been denied. And considering that it was the Second Amendment, like not the third, not the fifth, not the 10th. We're talking the second. And to be honest with you, I only think they did that just so they can just get the first out there. But everyone knows that without that Second Amendment, everything else just falls to the wayside.
Right. I think that what happens there is that's one of the things that we're learning in our BGM classes. A lot of people are going. They just haven't been exposed to it. And then when they get exposed to it, they hit with that same analogy. They go, oh, this got to be important because it's 2 on the list. I mean, it can be very simple. And, when they're receiving, because, a lot of our members are new cats that are coming into it, they still have an objective mind. They still, they still willing to learn. When you're on the side where you've already made it, an emotional commitment to being wrong or being biased, there's nothing I can really do with you there. But when it's simplified and broken down that way, without your biases or your prejudices, everybody seems to get it. And the people that don't, they change when they get robbed. They change. Somebody pull a gun on you and you can't defend yourself. All of that ideology and that philosophical, flowery land stuff, that goes
doesn't
right
matter
out.
anymore. It goes right out the window.
Real life.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's amazing what happens when people get confronted with reality. And I think we've benefited from, like, we have people who are fighting for us, who are doing too good of a job in many ways. I think they do such a good job. They've created this wall where we get to benefit from their sacrifice in that regard. So what ends up happening is we get adjusted in a very different way. We become incredibly comfortable. So now we start living the world through our minds instead of living it in reality. And in our minds, inherently, we don't like things that make us feel uncomfortable. And funny thing is, people who carry guns do the same thing. You ever thought about in your mind the situations you could find yourself in whenever you might have to use your gun? And I guarantee you, in your mind, it all goes down very perfectly. You see exactly when the guy's coming or the situation. You see it beforehand. You know exactly when it's going to happen. You're there. You're prepared for it. But your mind never goes to the point where, like, well, maybe I'm just sitting in this restaurant and boom, something happens, right? And I'm not prepared for it. And so if you're doing that as somebody who carries a firearm and understands the concept of the Second Amendment, imagine somebody who doesn't carry a gun and goes through life and lives a certain life where they're not confronted with it on a daily basis, but are still exposed to it whether they are aware of it or not. And so that's the kind of mentality and mindset we're dealing with in that regard. And so it's a tough bridge to cross. It's a high mountain for us to climb to get up there and actually talk to them. But I mean, you're on the ground doing the work. And I can't do anything but applaud you for it.
No doubt. Thank you, my brother. Yeah, it's coming. They're receiving it tremendously. I mean, we're gonna hit Compton next. We're just gonna keep going. I'm never gonna stop. I'm never gonna stop. It's not gonna stop until this is over with. Then I can go on to whatever island I want to be on.
Absolutely. And as long as we have that vigor and aggression, I mean, they don't understand the passion. They don't have the passion. They don't have the same level of passion to be against it the way we are for it. And you're a walking embodiment of that, man. But thank you for joining me, man. We'll have you back on here as usual. You know how it goes.
No doubt.
But yeah, now good luck in Compton. Let me know how that goes. Usually give me the 411 on that.
No doubt.
We'll keep going.
I hit you beforehand.
All right, man.
All right, peace.
All right. And when we come back, we have a special message from Wayne LaPierre just for you.